Sexual virgin. What does it mean? Get ready for a real eye-opener. In this video, I am about to peel back the layers of Doris Day's iconic girl-next-door image. The beloved Virgin of America had a life that was far from what you saw on the silver screen. We'll be diving deep into the shattered dreams and failed marriages that were kept hidden. How about Doris Day's bedroom secrets? I'm about to share the juicy details about her sexual appetite and the love-making marathons with none other than Ronald Reagan. And here's a bombshell for you. What connections did she have with the Manson family? We're going there, but let me give you an advice. This video isn't for the faint of heart. What comes next is a real emotional turmoil as we uncover the heart-wrenching truth about Doris's final moments. After watching this video, your whole perception of Doris is going to do a 180, and trust me, there's a lesson in here that's going to stick with you. Doris Day embodied the early 1960s paradox. She was often hailed as the girl next door, capable of bringing a room to life with her infectious joy. But her life didn't always align with her sunny image. She confessed, "I'd like to share the genuine, unfiltered story of who I truly am, this image I carry. It's completely unrelated to the life I've lived." What was it meant to be a woman in Doris Day's time? In the midst of the sexual revolution, Doris Day held on to her wholesome film roles, earning her the teasing title of the world's oldest virgin from critics in the 60s and 70s. Hop into our time machine and let's rewind to the captivating yet complex era of the 1950s and 60s. Back then, women's image was shaped by society's expectations and those deep-rooted gender roles. Imagine women dressed to the nines, flaunting elegant miniskirts and chic heels. It wasn't just a choice, it was the norm. Beauty standards were high, tiny waists, ample busts, and complexions that could rival porcelain. Women ruled the roost at home. They were the ultimate homemakers with little room for career aspirations or independence. Tradition had its say. Gender roles were clear-cut. Men were the providers while women took care of the family. Submissiveness was the name of the game. Women were rarely seen in media and popular culture as strong, independent characters. Opportunities to break the mould were scarce. Doris Day embodied the ideal woman. With her effortless charm and wholesome femininity, she nailed the image. She balanced contradictions, innocence and allure, ambition and homemaking, sophistication and approachability. It wasn't just about enjoying being a girl for Doris Day. She portrayed a straightforward yet almost mythical image of womanhood. But her cheerful, all-American image hid a reality that was quite different. She seemed like the ideal woman, but her own life showed just how far from reality that image was. In a rapidly changing America, Doris Day straddled the line between sexy and innocent. But when the cameras turned off, Day's personal relationships were anything but picture-perfect. In fact, they often resembled chilling horror stories. What made America's sweetheart's life so tragic? How did Hollywood crush her dreams and happiness? Well, let's start from the beginning, because Doris Day's destiny was sealed from the get-go. At the tender age of 10, she stumbled upon a life-changing revelation. Her father, a music teacher, was having an affair with her best friend's mother. It had a deep impact on her. This trauma completely destroyed her view of men. In my opinion, it's the root of Doris's series of bad decisions in relationships. Of course, I always want to hear your opinion too. She faced a life-changing car crash that halted her budding career. She was a talented young dancer in her Cincinnati hometown, and she saw her dreams dashed. In 1937, a tragic car accident struck her at just 15. Cruising with friends, their car collided with a train, shattering her right leg. Day said she was unaware of the full extent of her injuries. She managed to crawl out of the car, but her legs failed her, forcing her to drag herself to the roadside. As she checked her leg, her fingers touched the sharp ends of shattered bones protruding from it. Overwhelmed, she passed out, only to awaken in the hospital. The crash left her bedridden for months. During her recovery, she unveiled her singing talent as she sang along to the radio. She spent most of her time listening to music, singing along and discovering her newfound musical talent. Ella Fitzgerald had a special place in her heart. In her own words, there was a quality to her voice that fascinated me, and I'd sing along with her, trying to catch the subtle ways she shaded her voice, the casual yet clean way she sang the words. Her singing teacher, Grace Rain, had the biggest influence on her career and personal style, yet Day herself made a big impression on Rain. The teacher was so awed by the young singer's tremendous potential that she gave Day thrice-weekly lessons for the price of one. She wanted the stage, but something was still missing. She had to get a stage name. Jazz musician Barney Rapp was the one who suggested she change it because her birth name of Kappelhoff was too long. So Day took her stage name after the song Day After Day. When she dropped her first mega hit, Sentimental Journey, it became an anthem for wartime America. She instantly kick-started her extensive film career. Michael Curtis cast her in Romance on the High Seas. Landing the role surprised her because she had zero acting experience. But she was exactly what Hollywood craved at the time, an authentic and all-American girl. Doris Day soared to stardom as the queen of 1950s romantic comedies, winning hearts at the box office. Her charm was undeniable. Her voice, fresh and vibrant, exuded energy that transcended even her earliest roles. Yet Day had another unique talent. She could paint a picture of captivating innocence within sexuality. Do you remember this scene from Tea for Two in 1950? In gentle old-fashioned lighting, Day added a touch of innocent allure to the romantic song, singing to her uncle. Even in her spicier films, Day balanced sexual allure with unwavering virtue. For instance, in a scene from Pillow Talk, she hilariously freaked out at the sight of a bachelor pad and any hints of premarital intimacy. Though she had opportunities for more dramatic roles, such as playing James Stewart's wife in Alfred Hitchcock's thriller The Man Who Knew Too Much, Day always chose to embrace her typecasting in lighter romantic comedies, often referred to as sex comedies at the time. In all Day's romantic comedies you can recognise a distinct formula at play. Her formula. It's all about rewarding virtuous women for their patience. Time and again her spirited, confident yet conservative persona would captivate a slew of charming leading men, like Rock Hudson, Clark Gable, Cary Grant. She would win them over, convincing them to forsake their playboy lifestyles and propose marriage. This allowed for enticing scenarios, while avoiding explicit sensuality. Critic Pauline Kael dubbed it the Doris Day routine of flirting, with bed but never getting there. Day was a pro at blending knowing playfulness with an air of purity. Her image became a cultural punchline, best captured in a quote attributed to comedic pianist Oscar Levant. "I knew Doris Day before she was a virgin." That pretty much sums up how 1960s Hollywood saw her. As I mentioned earlier, get ready to take a deep dive into Doris's bedroom secrets in some pretty vivid detail, so brace yourselves. This sexual virgin even had more than a healthy sexual appetite, getting cosy with some famous fellas. She dated Ronald Horndog Reagan, even sharing the screen with him before he became the Commander-in-Chief, way before he was preaching family values as a Republican president. Raised eyebrows. Some people even thought she might help his political career. Maybe that's why throughout her life Day was a staunch Republican. He might not have been an A-lister in Tinseltown, but he was good-looking, well-liked, and a hit with the ladies. He'd been with so many women that he once joked, "I woke up one morning and couldn't remember the name of the gal I was in bed with." He called it leading lady-itis, often romancing his co-stars and other girls around town. Reagan was head over heels for Day, even though he was seeing Marilyn Monroe at the same time, and let me tell you, Doris was a lucky girl because Reagan had a reputation as a 40-minute man. You can guess what that means. It says a lot about Day's preferences, and they weren't exactly pure as the driven snow. The two of them were both under contract with Warner Brothers and ended up co-starring in 2 films together, Storm Warning and The Winning Team. Day revealed, "I was dating several men during that time. Jack Carlson, occasionally my ex-husband, George Weidler when his band was in town, and Ronald Reagan." She went on to explain how she met Reagan. "I had met Ronald Reagan through a mutual friend from New York who had moved to Los Angeles. Ronnie had recently divorced Jane Wyman and lived alone in an apartment high above Sunset Strip. They would discreetly retreat to his place, engaging in marathon love-making sessions while enjoying breathtaking views of the city. Day noted, "Two things stood out about Ronnie for me, his love for dancing and his gift for conversation. Ronnie is the only man I've known who adored dancing. He was a skilled dancer and had a charming personality, so I always enjoyed going out with him." She supported Reagan's political aspirations, saying he wasn't officially in politics at that time, but he possessed what I'd describe as a political personality, charismatic, resolute, and incredibly talkative. But it wasn't a simple affair between the two. Reagan wanted to propose to Day. He envisioned her as the ideal wife to complement his future political career. "If folks ever tire of my long-winded speeches, she can step in and belt out a tune," he stated. Nonetheless, as was often the case with Reagan, his enthusiasm for Day gradually faded, yet Day herself never had a shortage of admirers, so she had no reason to worry. But guess what? Reagan wasn't the only one smitten with her. Even George H.W. Bush admitted he had a bit of a crush on her back when he was a young World War II pilot. Unfortunately for Doris, her life wasn't all about wild, passionate nights with Ronnie. Like I mentioned earlier, tragic events in her private life seemed to follow her like a dark shadow. Although many men were fans of Doris Day, being a fan didn't mean they were the right fit for her. This isn't about Doris Day playing the lively diva for once. She was quite impressionable, as you can see, but the problem here takes a darker turn, unfortunately. I can certainly say that Doris Day had a poor choice in men. Throughout her life she grappled with relationships involving violent, abusive and controlling men. Her trusting nature made her vulnerable to manipulation, often at the hands of her husbands. She sought the father figure she had never known in her marriages. Day made her first marriage when she was only a teenager, and her marriage to trombonist Al Jordan turned into a nightmare. Initially she fell for the Jordan she had known while working together in various bands, but soon she realized that the man she had married was not who she had thought. What I perceived as love turned out to be jealousy, a pathological jealousy that would turn the next few years of my life into a nightmare, she shared. Allegedly, Day was physically abused by her first husband, whom she described as a psychopathic sadist. She claimed that just 2 days into their marriage, Jordan struck her for the first time after seeing her accept a wedding gift from one of his bandmates. It lasted for months. Day would have left him had she not become pregnant with their child, Terry. Despite the constant abuse, even during her pregnancy, Day stayed, secretly planning her escape. In 1943 she finally kicked him out of their home. You might think that Doris Day's tragic series of events has come to an end, but the avalanche is just beginning. Sadly, Jordan tragically ended his own life in 1967, leaving Doris to be a single mother with a tragic past. Upon learning of his death, it's no surprise that Day felt more relief than sorrow. Her later marriages were no better. Her second one to saxophonist George Weidler couldn't handle her fame. On her 29th birthday, she tied the knot for the third time with Martin Melcher, her manager. She thought she'd found the happiness she'd longed for. "I felt like I'd finally found the stable, serene life I'd been searching for," she said, but that illusion shattered. She was baffled by this man who had been my lover, adopted my son, managed my career and business. At first their marriage seemed perfect. Melcher even adopted Day's son Terry, who took his last name. Their love story endured until Melcher's death in 1968, but hold off on the celebrations just yet. Doris faced another loss, this time losing a dear friend. Doris Day and Rock Hudson were lifelong buddies who often shared the big screen. Day made a brief return to TV to champion her beloved cause, animal rights, with the show Doris Day's Best Friends. What's wrong with that? It aired on the Christian broadcast network owned by the famously homophobic televangelist Pat Robertson. But it's what unfolded during the show that grabbed the headlines. Hudson's health was deteriorating. It was evident during a press conference where he announced his upcoming appearance on Day's show. They wrapped up the special, which aired in July 1985. That same month, Hudson became the first major celebrity to reveal his AIDS diagnosis, also sharing his lifelong secret, his sexual orientation. The filming was bittersweet. We shared hugs and tears knowing it was the last time. He's in heaven now, Doris said. Despite the emotional turmoil, Day cherished Hudson's words. The best moments of my career were making comedies with you. She felt the same way. But amidst life's challenges, a quirky twist of fate brought her and her fourth husband, Barry Comden, together. Their love story began with a simple doggy bag. Barry, a maitre d' at one of Doris's favourite restaurants, knew about her love for dogs, so as she exited the eatery, he charmed her by handing over a bag filled with doggy treats. It was indeed love at first bite. But as time passed, their affection for animals turned out to be a double-edged sword. After just 6 years of marriage, Barry realised that Doris's devotion to her furry friends was greater than her love for him. Now hold on tight. If you thought the tragic surprises in Doris's life were done, I have to tell you that you're sadly mistaken. After losing her third husband in 1968, Doris faced another harsh reality. It turned out that her late spouse, along with his partner Jerome Bernard Rosenthal, had squandered all her hard-earned money, and the situation only got worse from there. In her own words, "It was a nightmare. I was in a really tough spot when Marty passed away, and the thought of diving into television was overwhelming. But Marty had actually committed me to a TV series. To make matters worse, my son Terry took me for a walk in Beverly Hills and dropped the bomb that this wasn't the end of it. I had also been signed up for several TV specials, all without anyone bothering to consult me," she shared. Her third husband had taken on the role of her agent, a decision that would haunt Doris. Melcher had full control over her finances, leaving her with an eye-popping debt of $500,000. What's more, he had secretly locked her into a 5-year TV series on CBS, The Doris Day Show. She was waiting for the opportunity to break out, but she had no choice. She had to recover from her husband's financial mismanagement. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, Doris found herself entangled in a series of embarrassing and complex legal battles. In 1987, she became a co-defendant in a lawsuit filed by her late husband's business partner. They painted her as an unwilling participant in a $30 million real estate dispute. Day remained a steadfast defender of her late third husband until her final days. She believed he had good intentions and had simply misplaced his trust in the wrong person to handle their finances. According to her son, her husband's early passing ultimately spared her from complete financial ruin, yet the full extent of Martin Melcher's shady dealings may forever remain shrouded in uncertainty. As I mentioned earlier, I've saved the most shocking part for last, but then grab some tissues because you might need them. Doris Day's connection to Charles Manson reveals the complexity behind her pristine image. Day's son worked as a music producer and crossed paths with Manson. Terry was close friends with Brian Wilson, who had befriended Manson. Wilson introduced Manson to Terry, and Manson hoped for a record deal through him. But Terry quickly recognized Manson's lack of talent and rejected his music ambitions. Despite this, they remained connected. Terry even paid Manson a visit in the summer of 1969, when Manson and his followers were planning their horrifying attacks. Around that time, Terry was dating the up-and-coming Hollywood star Candice Bergen, who was renting a house on Cello Drive in Benedict Canyon. Concerned about their friendship, Day urged Terry and Candice to leave the Cello Drive house where Manson had visited. Manson was aware of their move, but fixated on the house as a symbol of Hollywood's corruption. In June 1969, when Terry declined to sign Manson, he directed his rage toward Hollywood itself. Targeting the Cello Drive house, he ordered his followers to attack the house on August 8, 1969. Day's advice ensured her son's safety, but tragically, she couldn't protect everyone. When Manson attacked the house, they found Roman Polanski's pregnant wife, actress Sharon Tate. Terry, deeply affected by the incident, could only testify at the trial under sedation. The rest is a chilling chapter in history. Ever wondered how Innocence could be tied to such gruesome deeds? Doris Day's connection to these strange events indirectly shows how quickly Hollywood changed her prime. It also highlights the contrast between her personal life and her public image. She was nothing like her famous on-screen persona. Her life was far from the pure and innocent image she projected. You can gauge her struggle with this contradiction from her own words. Years later she revealed that her iconic public image was more make-believe than any film part I've ever played. She lived as a facade admired by the world, portraying a character that didn't truly exist. This dual identity haunted her throughout her life, and it's unclear if it could have ever changed. But why? I'm not delving into the Hollywood studios' manufactured reputations and control, as I've discussed this in another video, which you can check out in the corner. Instead, I'm focusing on how Doris Day could have made a difference. She had the chance to channel the love she received as a fictional character into her real self, yet it seems that Doris's two sides often clashed, with her innocent persona usually prevailing. Initially they wanted her to play Mrs. Robinson in The Graduate, but Doris Day, known for her conservative values, turned it down. She found the script vulgar and offensive. Anne Bancroft got the role and even snagged an Academy Award nomination for it. In the end, it's clear that Doris was her own worst enemy. Many think Doris Day's life was all sunshine and roses thanks to her movies, but reality was much different. Her friend Carol Johnson recalled a conversation about her failed marriages. Doris quipped, "Boy, I know how to pick 'em, don't I?" She once believed in marriage, but found it too confining. The toughest blow came when her son Terry passed away. It left her shattered. She sought comfort in her loyal fans and dedicated staff. She had a handful of close friends who remained by her side till the end. But things changed as time went on. Sidney Wood, her former bodyguard and confidant, worried about the people around her. He feared they cared more about her fame than her well-being. In 2014, Doris made a surprise public appearance at an event for her foundation. She said she exercised every day and felt young, yet her grandson Ryan learned of her death through social media. He had been distanced from her due to family issues and faced obstacles when he tried to reconnect. Ryan claimed a man named Bashara manipulated the situation and cut off communication. Bashara also made changes to Doris's foundation board. Doris's publicist, Charlie Cullen Walters, said it was Doris's choice not to see her grandson, even though she had wanted to reconnect. Now questions arise about Doris Day's estate, including her $300,000 Carmel home and her foundation with substantial assets. Concerns linger about the events surrounding her last years and the exclusion of friends and family. In her will, Doris Day specified no funeral service or grave marker. She wanted her fortune to support the Doris Day Animal Foundation, reflecting her deep love for animals over humans in her final years. I hope Doris will be remembered for more than just these tragic events. In a time of cultural and social upheaval, Day's timeless style was firmly rooted in old-fashioned ideas of womanhood. This unchanging image still charms people today. On social media, many still express their desire to marry her. Day represented the classic mid-century woman, forward-looking yet holding traditional values. Her portrayal was simply alluring, and even now it keeps us believing in the lasting myth. I promised to change your perception of Doris Day, and I believe I've delivered on that vow. Her image was a total paradox. While she dazzled as America's sweetheart on screen, her off-screen reality was no fairy tale. Marriages, personal battles, and the heartbreaking loss of her son unveil the lesser-known facets of this beloved actress. Behind the iconic Hollywood veneer lay a woman who confronted life's hardships and heartaches head-on. Doris Day's narrative stands as a stark reminder that the silver screen personas often obscure the intricate layers of real life. It's a poignant lesson in peeling back the layers of Hollywood glitz to uncover the profound humanity beneath. As you revisit Doris Day's timeless films, keep in mind the genuine individual behind the girl-next-door facade. She wasn't merely a Hollywood icon, she was a tenacious woman who gracefully navigated life's trials and tribulations. If you think you can just up and leave now, well, think again. I've got another video lined up for you, and trust me, you'll want to check it out. No doubt about it. How Grace Kelly's raging libido almost ruined her Hollywood career.